A good and nourished Shabbos. Hope everyone is well. Sorry for delay today and starting this year. Today we are learning Perek Vav of Mesechus Trumos. Today's shir is sponsored by Nishmas Aaron Nachman and Simcha Kohen, the Mordechai ben Shepsel, Bracha, Sarah Bashmal Leib, and Mina Moshe ben Yosef. May the Neshemas all have an aliyah. Today's Perek is a short one. Only 6 Mishnayos. That's good. That's on Erev Shabbos. Let's start with Mishnah Aleph, Perek Vav. We're talking about a non Kohen who ate Trumah by mistake. I mean, they didn't know it was Trumah, or he didn't know that eating Trumah was usher. So we're going to talk. There's a pasuk in I think it's Kedoshim. V'ish ki yochel kodesh b'shkagav Yosef chamishaso alav v'nasam kohen as a kodesh. If a man eats something holy, being truma by mistake, he must add a fifth to it, and he shall give the holy thing to the kohen. So now this Mishnah is going to discuss the halachas regarding this pasuk. Mishnah Aleph: Ha'ochel truma shogig m'shalom keren v'chomesh. Someone who eats truma by mistake must pay the Kohen with produce that is worth the principal and an extra fifth. So you have to pay for the value of what you ate plus a quarter of the principal, which is a fifth of the total. So let's say, for example, let's say the truma is $100, and so now you owe the Kohen $100 for what you ate. You would also add on another $25, which is a quarter of the 100. But when you add it onto the principal, then it becomes a fifth of the total amount due. This 25 is a fifth of 125, but it's a quarter of 100. This rule applies whether there's someone eats the truma or he drinks it or he applies it to his skin. Mishalim Chamisha, he must pay its fifth, as we talked about before. The Chomesh Chamisha. And if he eats the fifth by mistake, he must pay that fifth plus a fifth of that fifth. So let's say he eats, okay, we said that the Trumah was 100. So now he's giving back 125. So now he eats, let's say, from that 25. Right, he eats from that fifth, so now he has to give back 25 plus another 5, because the second 5 is a fifth of the 25th. Did you get that? Hope so. It's like 5th grade mathematics. Truma, he cannot pay with Truma. He must pay with money. It's a monetary. That the principal and the fifth must be paid with ordinary produce. You can't pay it with truma. Truma is already given to the Kohen. You must pay with ordinary fixed produce that has been. It's chulin. You already gave all the truma. You gave all the mice. You gave everything that you need to give. This is not tava. This is total chulin produce. He must pay that chomesh and the principal for what he ate from chulin. Vehem nas and truma, and that becomes truma, which is given to the Kohen. Truma. And if he ate that produce by mistake, if he ate that matana that he gave to the Kohen, and the new payment that he must make to the Kohen also becomes truma. If the Kohen wants to forgo the payment, he cannot forgo, because even if the Kohen waives his right to the payment, he still has the chiyuv to pay, because you can't go back on what's written in the Torah, right? And the Kohen does not have the power to be machol those penalties. Mishnah Beis, Bas Kohen Shachla Truma v'Achar Kach Nisas the Kohen. if the daughter of Yisrael, sorry, that's it. Bas Yisrael she'achlu truma achar kaf nisas the Kohen. Should get the words right. If the daughter of Yisrael ate truma by mistake and then married a Kohen, in truma shelo zacha ba Kohen achla. The law is that if the truma that she ate had not been acquired by a Kohen, meaning that the truma had been separated but not yet given to the Kohen, mishalem es karen lechomesh la'atzma. And she pays the principal and the fifth to herself. Because we know that a Bas Yisrael is not allowed to eat truma. But once she gets married to a Kohen, then she becomes an Ashes Kohen, and her Bas Yisrael status gets kind of pushed to the side. Now she's an Ashes Kohen. So now since she ate the truma before she was an Ashes Kohen, but now she is. Now she could pay the principal and the fifth to herself, meaning that she must set aside the produce as payment because she ate the truma when it was still also to her. But since she's now married to a Kohen, she can keep that produce for herself. She be marfish, but then she could eat it. The in truma shezacha Kohen achla. However, if she ate truma that had already been acquired by a Kohen, and then she married a Kohen, Mishalemes Keren Abalim. And she pays the principal to the Kohen who was the owner of the Trumah since she stole it to him. The Chomesh Atzma, she may nevertheless keep the fifth for herself. So in that case, she separated the Trumah when she was a Bas Yisrael, and she gave the Trumah to a Kohen. Let's say some other Kohen, not necessarily her husband. And then now she ate from that truma. So now she has to go and give she has to give a new truma to the Kohen that she gave to originally, because she essentially stole it from him. But the chomesh, as the Mishnah says, she can keep it for herself because the penalty doesn't belong to the actual Kohen. It's a penalty that she has to pay. Okay, so then now Mishnah explains why she can keep that extra penalty, that chomish. Because the chomish say ha'ochel truma shogim mishalin karen lebalim. Someone who eats truma by mistake must pay the principal to the owner of the truma, since he must compensate him for his loss. The chomish, the chomish yitzie. But he may pay the fifth to any Kohen he wants because the fifth is not part of the compensation for the loss. Rather, it's a fine that can be paid to any of the Kohanim from any other tribe, the tribe of Kohanim. So therefore, she can keep the fifth for herself and not, as she can choose herself to give it to. Mishnah Gimel. Hamachil espala vis orchav truma. If one gives truma to his workers or his guests who are not kohanim for them to eat, right, which they're not allowed to eat that, who mishalim as a keren, he pays the principal to the owner since he's the one who stole it. Hey mishalim as a chomish, and they pay the fifth since they're the ones who ate it. The Rabbi Meir, this is according to Rabbi Meir, Chachamim Amrim. The Chachamim say, "Hey, Mishal and Karen, the Chomesh, the workers, the employees, whoever he gave the food to, they pay both the principal and the fifth. Who Mishalim lahem the Mesudasa, and he pays them the value of their meal. Since he has to give them food, then he has to pay them for reimbursement for the meal, but they have to pay for the truma and the chomish that they ate, even though he gave it to them. Mishnah Dalet, Hagonev truma, someone stole truma from a kohen but did not eat it. Mishalim tashlum kefal to make truma. He makes a double payment for having committed the sin of theft. He returns the truma itself and pays the monetary value of the Trumah. Right? He has to give back what he stole, and he also has to give the value as well. Achla, if he stole Trumah and then he ate it, Mishalim Shnei Kuranim v'Chamesh. He pays two principals and the fifth, as follows. Why? Karen v'Chamesh v'Chulin. One principal and the fifth are paid with ordinary produce because they are payments for the sin of eating Trumah. He has to pay the 1 1/5. The Karen that made Trumah and the second principal can be paid with money worth the value of the Trumah. This is the second part of the double pay because he has to pay for kefo for stealing. So it's not advised to steal Trumah and then eat it. That's going to cost you a lot. Don't do that. And I wonder, and there's probably another payment. There's probably another penalty if he's tummy. Maybe that's malchus. I don't know. I mean, that's other things. Gana Trumas hektish v'achla. If someone stole Trumah that is hektish, being was donated to the base of Mikdash and he ate it. Mishalem shnei chamashim v'keren. He pays the temple, the base of Mikdash, 2/5 and 1 principal, meaning that he pays 1.5 times its value. So in the case of 100, he'd be paying 150. He pays the principal, okay, 1 of the 5th with the produce for eating Trumah. Because he ate Trumah, he has to pay the 1 1/5, and he pays the second 5th to another chomesh for the sin of benefiting from hektish, which you're not allowed to do until you redeem it. However, he does not pay a second principal for the sin of stealing, she'ein behektish to shemikil, because in the case of stealing hektish, there's no obligation to make double payment. That's learned from a pasuk. Where's the pasuk? It says because the pasuk says Yishalim Shnaim leRe'ehu. So Re'ehu, he has to pay twice to his fellow, and that means to his fellow and not to hektish. And Mishnah Hay, going out to Mishnah Hay. One may not pay with produce that's leket, shikha, or peya, or that is ownerless. We discussed all these already, right? And you cannot pay ma'aserisha with whose trumas ma'aser has been separated. Nor with ma'aser sheni or hektish that has been redeemed, because something that was consecrated, meaning ma'aser sheni and hektish, which were already consecrated previously, they cannot pay for something that's been consecrated, meaning they cannot pay for the truma that has been eaten. To Rabbi Meir, this is according to Rabbi Meir, and the Chachamim allowed a person to pay with all these, meaning ma'aser sheni that has been redeemed and hektish that has been redeemed. You can pay for the truma and chomesh from those things. But if it has not been redeemed yet, then you definitely cannot. And finally, Mishnah Vav, Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says, "V'shalmin min al she'eno mino." One may pay with one type of produce for a different type of produce, meaning that the produce used for payment need not be the same type as the produce that was eaten. As long as he pays with high quality produce for low quality produce, meaning that the produce that he's giving a second time has to be more valuable than the produce that was eaten before. Rabbi Akiva says, one may not pay except the same type of produce as the type that he ate. Therefore, if someone ate gourds that grew in the 6th year before Shemitah, and there are no more gourds that remain from that year's crop, Yamtin the Kishuin Shemot Shvius Yishalem Mehem. You must wait for the gourds that grow in the 8th year, the year after Shemitah, and pay with those, since you must pay with the species that he ate, and he cannot use Shemitah produce to pay for the fine. He must wait 2 years in this case before he can pay. The Mishnah wraps up. Yimakum Rabbi Lezer Mekel Misham Rabbi Akiva Machmir. From the same place in the Torah that Rabbi Lezer learns to rule leniently with the kula, Rabbi Akiva gives a chumrah. Why? What does the pasuk say? It says in Kedoshim Shenamar V'Nasat V'Nasan LaKohen as Kodesh. I think it's Kedoshim. I don't have the chumash in front of me. It's a Perek Beis, as it stated regarding the payments for the sin of eating Trumah by mistake, and he shall give the Kohen the holy thing. Kol shehu roy lios kodesh, anything that is fit to become holy, meaning Trumah, therefore one may pay with any kind of produce, since all type of produce can become Trumah. To Rabbi Lezer, that's the kula of Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Akiva is machmir. He says v'nasan lakohen as the kodesh, that when the Torah says that he shall give the Kohen the holy thing, kodesh sha'achal, it refers to the holy thing that he ate. Therefore, he must pay with the same type of produce as the type that he ate, and that is a chumrah according to Rabbi Akiva. That is all for Perek Vav. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful Shabbos. It will continue on Sunday morning with Perek Zion. And very exciting, next week we're going to be wrapping up with Terumos. We have a total of 11 Perakim. So we'll be finishing with Terumos on Thursday in Mitzvah Hashem. Very exciting. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Kol Tov.